I was 16. It was late. The screen opened on a woman in a facility, hands bound, and before I could process what I was watching, there was blood on the walls. That was my introduction to Elfen Lied. And for years, more than I'm comfortable counting, I thought I knew the story. I thought I had seen it, all of it. I hadn't seen half of it. I came back to this title as a manga reader. 3 years into reading manga properly, I thought it was time to go back to one of the things that made me fall in love with this world in the first place. I thought it would be homecoming. I thought it would be familiar. What I found was that the anime, the version I'd carried around inside my head for 20 years, isn't the story Lynn Okamoto wrote. It's a compressed, redirected, early exit version of the story Okamoto wrote. The real one kept going for 45 more chapters. And it ends completely differently. I felt lied to, not by anyone in particular, just by time, by circumstance, by the fact that no one told me. Let me tell you what they didn't show you. This is Elfen Lied, written and illustrated by Lynn Okamoto, serialized in Weekly Young Jump, a seinen from 2002 to 2005. 107 chapters, 12 volumes, complete story. If you know me and this channel, you know my lane is dark seinen, psychological horror, body horror, more rot, stories that do not want you to feel safe. Elfen Lied sits in that lane, but it also came before I had the vocabulary but to describe why. I watched the anime adaptation in high school. It defined something. Coming back to it now, to the actual source material, with everything I've read in the last few years behind me, it was a different experience, a fuller one, and a stranger one. Before we go any further, if you're new here, hit subscribe and drop a like. I'm about to describe things that the anime version of this story decided you didn't need to see. You deserve the full picture. It helps if you're subscribed. Elfen Lied is, at its core, a story about what happens to a person when the world teaches them that they are a weapon. Lucy, also known as New, is a Diclonius, a human evolutionary offshoot, distinguished by small horn-like protrusions and invisible telekinetic vectors, which can extend several meters from the body and will remove a human limb with roughly the same effort you'd spend opening a window. She escapes a research facility in the opening pages. She is shot in the head on the way out. She washes up on shore. A young man named Kota and his cousin Yuka find her. She cannot speak. She calls herself New. She has no memory of what she is. You see where this is going. 2 personalities, 1 body. One is innocent, childlike, confused. The other is the single most dangerous being in the known world, who has spent her entire life being tortured, experimented on, and used as a proof of concept for why the Diclonius should not exist. The New Lucy split isn't a gimmick. It's the entire emotional argument of the manga. Innocence and devastation occupying the same body because that is what the world created when it decided to treat a child as a threat. The manga earns that argument, slowly and very, very darkly. The first 60-odd chapters follow roughly the same terrain as the anime. Kota's household becomes a strange sanctuary, a found family assembles itself around Lucy, New. The facility hunts her down, secondary Diclonius like Nana are deployed and broken and occasionally reassembled. The themes of nature versus nurture are present from chapter 1. Are the Diclonius inherently violent, or did every Diclonius become violent because humans made them that way first? Okamoto doesn't answer this cleanly, and he shouldn't. Now, here is where the anime and the manga part ways. By episode 12, the anime invents its own ending, a climactic confrontation, an ambiguous doorbell scene, blood dripping down a wall, a silhouette that may or may not be Lucy. It's emotionally effective. It's also not what Okamoto wrote. The anime was produced while the manga was still ongoing. The director had 13 episodes and no ending to adapt. So he made one. And then the manga kept going for another 45 chapters. What those chapters contain is substantially darker, more ambitious, and more structurally complex story than anything the anime attempted. The Kakuzawa lineage, hinted at in the anime, peripheral in it, becomes the central axis of the manga's second half. The Kakuzawa family has a theory about the Diclonius. Not just that they are a threat, that they are a replacement, that the Diclonius virus spreads through the vectors, infects human males, and that their offspring are born Diclonius. That this is, in fact, the end of humanity as a species, not through war, but through biological succession. The father believes he can control this. He is, predictably, completely wrong, catastrophically arrogant, and dead within 3 chapters of us understanding exactly how wrong he is. Meanwhile, Kota's arc deepens in ways the anime didn't touch. The memory suppression is excavated fully in the manga. Kota saw his father and sister killed. He knows, somewhere under the suppression, who did it. The manga takes its time with that knowledge. It parcels it out across chapters, and each new fragment of memory sits alongside his growing feeling for Lucy, new, until you have a man who is genuinely, consciously in love with the entity that destroyed his family. The manga asks you to hold that without resolution. That's not a flaw. That is what the story is doing. The final arc converges everything. Kota, Lucy, the Kakuzawa facility, the nature of the Diclonius virus, and a conclusion the anime could not have known about. The manga ending is not ambiguous. Kota marries Yuka. Years pass. He goes to place where he and Kaede, Lucy's real name, which means maple leaf, connecting to the house where she lived, first met as children. He finds a chest she buried. Inside is a note. Then 2 young women appear, twins. One is named Lucy, one is named New. He says, "I finally found you." Full stop. The anime gave you a bloodstain on a wall and an open door. The manga gave you closure. I know which one I needed after 20 years of carrying this story around. Okamoto's central argument, when you have all 107 chapters in front of you, is this: love is not a cure. It cannot undo the damage done by institutions and cruelty and inherited violence. But it is the only thing that interrupts the cycle. The manga is asking whether that exception is enough, whether it was always enough, even when it wasn't enough to save everyone. The answer it lands on is complicated and earned, and you will have feelings about it for a while. Reading Elfen Lied as a manga is a specific kind of sustained discomfort. Not the numbing discomfort of gore for its own sake, something more layered. The violence is visceral. Okamoto does not soften the vectors, does not cut away, does not let you pretend that a human body is something that survives what is being done to it. But the violence is never the point. The violence is the cost. Every time something terrible happens, the manga has built up enough emotional depth that you feel it as a loss rather than spectacle. What it does to you across 12 volumes is something I didn't fully expect. By volume 6, I had developed a genuine protective instinct towards characters I knew, intellectually, were not going to be okay. The manga had noted this and continued anyway. I respected that. I didn't enjoy it, I respected it. There is a specific spacing in the second half that the anime never reached, something that feels almost elegiac. The story knows where it's going. It has always known. And it gives you just enough warmth, just enough of Kota's household and Nana's small survivals and Lucy's moments of new-like grace to make you understand what is at stake before it takes it from you. Reading this after having watched the anime is a specific kind of experience I cannot fully replicate for you. It felt like finding out a song you've loved for years has a second verse. And the second verse is where the real song lives. Lucy. The manga gives you the split personality as a psychological argument. New is not just Lucy's innocent side. She is what Lucy would have been if she had been allowed to grow up in safety. If she had been Kaede instead of Subject Zero. The tragedy is not that New is lost when Lucy emerges. The tragedy is that New should have been the whole person and was only ever a fragment of what got left behind after the facility finished with her. Okamoto is careful about Lucy's violence. He never lets you enjoy it without complicating it. Every massacre lands with full weight, not because the victims are particularly developed, but because the manga has already established that Lucy knows exactly what she is doing and what it costs her, and does it anyway because she has been taught that this is the only available response to a world that wants to kill her. She is not a monster. She is the logical conclusion of what the world did to a child with extraordinary power. Kauta, the thing the manga does with Kauta that the anime gestures at but never fully delivers, is the accumulation of suppressed grief. He is not a passive protagonist. He is a person actively not knowing something that is destroying him from the inside. His final scene is not a resolution, it is a release, which is different. Kurama is probably the manga's most morally complicated figure outside of Lucy herself. He is not a villain, he is an institutional man, someone who executed policies he knew were wrong because he believed the alternative was worse, and who is now living in the ruins of the calculation. His relationship with Nana is the clearest the manga gets about redemption. It doesn't argue that he deserves it. It argues that Nana's capacity to give it is the remarkable thing. And then Nana, the anime underuses her significantly. Nana is the manga's moral spine. She is the proof of concept for the manga's central argument. You can interrupt the cycle. It requires extraordinary luck and extraordinary suffering and the right person at the right moment. And even then, it doesn't fix everything, but it is possible. Nana is what possible looks like. Elfen Lied, the manga, my honest take on it. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. What Okamoto gets right is the emotional architecture of the Lucy-Kauta relationship is genuinely constructed, not assembled from convenience. The nature versus nurture argument is run seriously and consistently across all 107 chapters without collapsing into a clean answer. The Nana-Kurama dynamic is one of the most quietly devastating things in the manga. The fact that it gets its own small resolution in the final chapters is earned in a way that surprised me. The ending is the ending this story deserved. Full stop. What does not work is the pacing in the Kakuzawa second half arc. Has patches where Okamoto is spinning plates and you can feel the effort. There are minor characters in the final third who exist primarily to be killed, to raise the stakes. And after the fourth one, the mechanism is visible. Kauta and Yuka, as a romantic unit, are the weakest element. The manga commits to them without doing the full character work to make the commitment feel inevitable. Read this manga if you watch the anime and want to know what it was actually trying to be. You have a tolerance for sustained darkness that is purposeful rather than decorative. You want your stories to earn their endings. Skip this if the anime was enough and you don't want to complicate the memory. You find the fan service elements disqualifying. You need protagonists who are easier to root for. This manga handed you the real ending 20 years ago and you never found out. That's not on the manga. Thanks for watching. If you made it through this one, you made it through something. Elfen Lied, the manga, is not the story you watched. It is the story that was always there, underneath it, waiting for someone to actually read it. Lucy's real name is Kaede. She is a maple leaf. She always was. The anime just never told you. If this video helped you, drop a like and subscribe to the channel. It costs nothing and it means more than you think. Comments below, which hits harder for you? The anime ending or the manga ending? And if you've read both, or watched both, which version of this story are you keeping? I'm Jan and I'll see you in the next one.